Believed we all took a flyer on like one team, and you said if Carolina somehow put it together, Bill Peters is a lock.
Yes.
Bill Peters is a lock.
Well, if they both somehow figure it out, Mike Babcock trumps Bill Peters.
No doubt about it. Bill Peters, there's still a lot of people trying to Google who Bill Peters is. Mike Babcock is at Toronto. He'd have the Toronto media, the Canadian media behind him. It's like McDavid and Eichel going for the Calder. The Canadian media, like, even though there are more American teams, the American media a lot of times gets where they're going from the Canadian media.
I think Eichel wins the Calder. I don't know why.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's
we'll
my
see.
bold prediction for the season because, and it's not, this is the thing that people don't realize. Every day we're going to be talking about it, who did what last night. Not just McDavid. We're certainly going to focus on Edmonton, but we're also going to focus on, McDavid did this, but geez, Jack Eichel did that. And what's interesting for me, and McDavid in the preseason, you watched some games, I watched some games. You guys all watch. He looked good, but Jack Eichel was outstanding.
No one should be shocked if Eichel ends up winning that, or if Eichel has a better statistical season. I think they're both destined to be great players almost right off the bat.
Well, tomorrow night they're playing their first game. And
you're doing it.
I'm doing an instant analysis on Eichel after the game, and Ryan Rishaug's in St. Louis with the Oilers, and he's doing one there. That's game one. It's going to be game after game after game.
82 of them.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to count how many times Ryan Rishaug says the word McDavid this year. The emails already just McDavid practice.
I don't think he's covering the Oilers anymore.
No, I don't either.
He's covering Connor McDavid.
Doesn't it feel like you would know this more, but when Eric Lindros in 91 was going to be drafted, that hype around Eric Lindros, like, we get reports, and it was just like Eric Lindros, I felt like he could go take a dump at center ice and people would be like, wow, it was the greatest dump in the history of it. Like, it was enough. Like, you finally, you got it.
We're
you know what I mean?
Sport Check, by the way. We're at Sport Check.
Yes?
In Maple Leaf Square.
I apologize.
No,
if
it's
that
all good,
went
man.
south.
Hey, you can take the boys out of the studio. You can't take the studio
This
out of the
could be in the
boys.
steakhouse across the street, and we would still have that comment about
You're right,
the dump.
but you know what I mean. It was just, people just got on that train where it was like, this guy's going to be the greatest. And he is, in my mind, he's a Hall of Famer, and I love it. But it just gets to a point where McDavid, like, the coverage on him.
Well, does he take over? Like, are they the poster boys of the league by the end of the year? Like, can they? Like, remember?
I read something today. They're on a national game 30 times this year.
The two of them combined, you mean?
No, the Oilers.
Right.
The Oilers. Last year, they were running from them.
Yeah, that's true.
And now they're, you will see anytime McDavid shows frustration or breaks a stick or
it's going to
be a big
Center
story.
top 10.
It's going to be a big story.
But I believe Edmonton is only on nationally on NBC once. So I do wonder about that. Can a kid playing in a Canadian market, a small Canadian market on the West Coast, or at least in the Western Conference, take over what Crosby and Ovechkin established the year after the lockout? Because that was a perfect storm. They were two young kids who everyone knew were going to be great, and they were great right off the bat, and they're playing in Pittsburgh and in Washington.
And there was a little bit of a white hat, black hat. Like Ovi was the black hat. He was, and Sid was more straight arrowed. And Eichel and McDavid are, I don't know, there doesn't seem to be a black hat.
Well, to me, Eichel seems a little bit more like Ovi compared to, and I think McDavid seems like Sid because he's a very vanilla. Vanilla's not a slight, but it's just he's a very mature young guy.
And he's careful. He's careful of his image and everything.
I think now Eichel seems to have a little bit more, maybe some personality under the surface that will come out with time and comfort level. That was my thing. There was that argument. You're right. When Sidney and Ovi came in, it was like, okay, Ovi's just going to run you over to get to the net, and he doesn't care. There was, I don't think it was a lack of respect, but it was like, I'm 230. I'm going to do what I want out here. And Sid had that skill and that work, and we all knew had heard of Sid since he was, 12, 13 years
Same
old.
as McDavid.
Same as McDavid. And really, Eichel's been known for a few years, too.
Yeah.
The difference also is that you have to remember is they're coming off a lockout. So I felt like the NHL wanted to start anew. They wanted that new wave. There were new rules. There was a new pace, more offense. This year, maybe not necessarily the case. And when you consider who the greats were back coming out of the lockout, there were still great players. Sakic was still playing. Yager was still playing. Lidstrom was still playing.
Yeah.
But they were up there in age. They were into their 30s. Ovi's only 30 now. Sid's, I think, 28? Like, they're not going anywhere. Yeah. So they're going to continue to put up big numbers. I do wonder what the reaction would be, or if it would be a different perspective at all if Eichel, the American, ended up in Edmonton and McDavid, the Canadian, ended up in Buffalo. Do you think we would react differently? Would Eichel be getting the treatment that McDavid's getting in Edmonton right now?
No.
No, because depending on who went first. McDavid.
No, I know,
was
but
first.
I'm just saying if
it
it worked
wouldn't be
out
the
that
same.
way.
I think McDavid and Buffalo would still be on steroids because Toronto's right here. Someone would literally.
Yeah, but I guess what I mean is Eichel wouldn't be getting the volume that McDavid gets right now if he was in Edmonton.
I think so too. But I think you said it. If he wasn't going to be in Toronto, put him in a Canadian market because it's good for the league. It's good for everything. But if McDavid was in Buffalo, I would argue that it would be almost as much coverage because of it's out east and it's in the backyard of the hockey hotbed.
Right.